Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Energetics Podcast. I am your host, Kara Bunde-Dunn. And today we're going to be talking about in between life soul regressions, a pretty personal topic for me. And I'm going to get a little vulnerable and I'm going to share with you my own personal experience. So, I'm going to talk about how I shifted myself, my relationships, even understanding at a deeper level the purpose behind this life that I'm incarnated in right now. So, a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to experience something called a Between Lives Soul Regression. And I did it with a gentleman by the name of Rob Schwartz. And for some of you that have been around for a long time, you may remember him from episode 32 of this podcast, where I interviewed him and we talked about past lives, soul contracts, all sorts of incredible things. And his work really centers around this idea that before we were born, our souls create a pre birth plan. We choose our lessons, we choose our relationships, we choose our challenges. We choose all of these things to help us grow and heal and expand our soul. And so during that session, I received a really clear message from my team in spirit. And it came in several different experiences inside that between life soul regression. But the two messages that came out clearly were radical honesty and radical acceptance for myself and for others. And I'll get into the deeps of all of that. But I thought I would start with explaining what is a between lives soul regression. So you might be like, "What are you talking about, Kara?" It's in essence, it is a deep hypnotic state where you can access expanded levels of your consciousness. So think of it like a really deep meditation where you can tap into the quantum field. You can get information from your angels and guides and team and spirit about, this between lives realm, the quantum field, the space where there's no physical dimensions, no time exists, and it's where our soul goes back home to. So you may even just call it home. You get to go back home. You get to get a deeper understanding of why you're here, what you're meant to learn. And so in the regression or in the deep meditation, we visit our past lives. We visit the lessons that we learned in this life or that we're learning in this life, I should say. And it gives you this space to access the light, to access your council of elders, to access your light team, and get information about how are you doing. So we all contract these big life lessons, like how are we doing? Are we on track, off track? Where do we need to make some adjustments? Where do we need to learn a little bit more? And that's really what happened for me. I got to go a little bit deeper on what I contracted to learn in this life and to show me where I'm needing to do a little bit of more work because we all are here to learn and grow and do the work. So, if the way that Rob explains this is it's up in between life soul regression is where you remember your eternal soul and everything your life is serving is for a higher purpose. So it isn't about judgment, it isn't about fear, it isn't about shame. It's about having unconditional love for yourself, having a deep sense of curiosity for things, and to call in peace and belonging and get wisdom from your angels and guides. So I really wanted to do it. After I interviewed Rob, he's like, "Kara, I invite you to come and do one of my between life soul regressions." So I was like, "Okay, I will take you up on it." Like I'm a curious soul, and I always think there are things to be learned. So, my experience in the session, the way that I explain it, I also am somebody that intuitively I get a lot of visual examples. Like things show like a movie screen when I do meditations. Some people see colors, some people feel things, some people get a knowing. I feel a lot and I see a lot. And I like to think about it like your clear imagination. Like if you had a very vivid imagination as a kid, you're probably somebody that sees a lot when you meditate. So for me, it was like watching a movie, and I got to see several past lives. I saw one where I was a starving little kid in India and the deeper meaning of that, which, by no surprise to any of you, when I was 19, I studied abroad in India. And my parents were like, "Why are you going to India?" And I was like, "I don't know. honestly. They speak English there, and for some reason, I feel called to go there. Well, my past life knew that I had lessons to learn there. So there was just, I always felt this deep connection to the children, like begging for food, begging for money on the streets of India. And I was like, oh my Lord. Now I know why, because I used to be one of those little kids. And also there was like a deep lesson in this life around using food as secure as a safety and security blanket, and it was just unhealed wounds from past lives. So I thought that was quite interesting that I learned. But the message that came through over and over and over again, I was as I was in that deep meditative state, was you have to learn how to have radical honesty with yourself and radical acceptance of yourself and others. And this didn't surprise me, but the way that it was said to me by my angels and guides made it feel deeper, like there was a deeper recognition of the lesson. And so it's like, okay, you can judge yourself, you can judge others, but when you learn how to have radical honesty and radical acceptance, you no longer have to live in judgment of yourself or others, or in shame of your own choices or things that had happened to you or whatever it might be. So, when we think about like radical honesty in particular, it's this willingness to look at yourself for exactly who you are, to tell yourself the truth, even when it's really, really uncomfortable. And how do you own who you are? Own your emotions, own your patterns, own your mistakes, own your desires, your dreams, your passions, and not hide behind what we conventionally think is safe. And this to me is the most highest vibrational thing you can do, is authenticity. And the only way you can vibrate at a state of authenticity is by being radically honest with yourself. It always starts with you. So in my regression, I was shown several different lifetimes and experiences where I was people pleasing, masking, silencing myself, not wanting to speak my truth, like not wanting to be burned at the stake for my abilities, all sorts of things that makes sense to me why my mediumship abilities didn't awaken until after the age of 40, and also why I was scared to speak up and why I was scared to say things. Now I will say, I if people know me, I'm extremely outgoing. I can talk to a freaking stranger on the street. I can speak up for injustices. I'm not afraid to speak and to use my voice, but I am afraid to hurt people's feelings. I am afraid um, to to cause harm to others. And it's this like deep-seated people pleasing that's come from lots of lifetimes. And learning how to speak your truth, but in the most heart-centered way, is really like a lifelong journey, let me tell you. And I recognized I was not at 100% capacity in these lessons that I meant to learn in this life. But I did recognize that I have made significant strides in using my authentic voice and saying what it is that I want to say out in the world. And honestly, this podcast is a really great vehicle for me to do that, because I can dive deeper into what I mean and how I want to express it. And you can't do that in a 90-second reel on Instagram. So that's partly why I really love this format of the podcast, and why season 4 is a solo season. I may have one or two guest speakers, but really the intention is for me to just share with you what's coming into my field, what I've been experiencing, what I've been learning, what I've been curious about, and hoping that it sparks some type of curiosity in you. So I just wanted to share that as well. And I wanted to then say, when we are radically honest with ourselves, which is something I'm learning how to do, we can then have radical acceptance for who we are. So it starts with the honesty, and then it punches with the acceptance, right? We have to know what we're accepting before we can accept it, right? So think radical acceptance is not like, oh, okay, fine. I just accept what happened to me. Shit hit the fan. It is what it is. I'm just giving up. I'm accepting it. These are my circumstances. This is my life. This is what I'm meant to learn. That is the opposite of what it means. What it means is I accept what is, and I can learn how to love myself anyway. I accept what is, but I am staying truthful in my pursuit of love and acceptance of myself and others. So it's like I accept it. Like this is a situation in my life, and now I'm going to get curious to figure out what I need to learn from it. But you can't learn anything that you're not willing to accept as a reality. So if you're like, "Oh, I have to live with it," or "This is all happening to me," you're missing the point. Radical acceptance is, "Okay, I made this choice. I did this thing. I'm not happy with it, but it's there for a purpose. It's there for a reason. It's there to teach me something." So it's learning how to hold compassion and love and humanity for yourself first, for your challenges, for your mistakes, for your lessons, for all the things that you contracted to learn in this life. And then it's learning how to do that for others too. Because what we judge in someone else is what we are actually judging in ourselves. So if you're getting in a high horse, judgy place, typically it's about we judge other people for judging us. And then you're like, okay, you're doing the same thing. Same thing, literally. So, learning how to have acceptance for yourself and then acceptance for others too, and recognizing they chose their challenges, they chose their obstacles. You can love them from right next to them, arm in arm, or you can love them from afar. You get to decide your boundaries, but you don't get to decide to judge their challenges. Their challenges are their challenges. You're meant to be a mirror of love and kindness and compassion and radical acceptance for people and for just who they are. So Rob teaches in all of his books. I love his books, like Your Soul's Plan, Your Soul's Journey. It's another one about your soul's, like why you choose who you love. Those are the three that I've read. But he teaches that every single experience, even the most painful experiences, are part of your soul's blueprint. They are part of your soul's plan. And every relationship you have in your entire life, even the ones that test you and trigger you, even the ones that break your heart, even the ones that harm you. It is all part of your curriculum. It is all part of what your soul came here to learn about. So for me, it wasn't so much about forgiving others first. It was about forgiving myself, accepting myself fully for all of my challenges and obstacles, for all of my blessings, for like gratitude for the life I got to experience. And then coming from that place makes it easier. It's not easy, makes it easier to have radical acceptance for other people too. So you may be like, okay, well, what does that mean in your daily life, Kara? Like, how do you actually make that like play out? And the thing that I would take from this is when we have radical honesty and radical acceptance for ourselves, we get to ask ourselves questions like, what is this here to teach me? I'm choosing to love. I'm choosing to be curious. I'm choosing to stay open instead of living in control, living in judgment, or living in fear. I do not need to be perfect to be present. Let me tap in to what is happening and let me get curious about what it's here to show me and teach me. So that's really the most powerful lesson that we can learn, especially in this, in these past life or in between life soul regressions, if you ever get a chance to do one. He always has them coming up. So I'll put a link in the show notes for how you can link and book your own. It is a group, it's done on Zoom. It's a group session. It's not one on one. And so you just are guided through these there's like some prep work and um, lots of questions that get answered, all that kind of stuff. And then you do it. And then there's some post work and reflection as well, which I think is always powerful when we can journal, meditate, reflect, to do some deep breathing, process what we're experiencing, and just see what comes through. So if you ever think like, I want to do a Between Life Soul Regression, I want to see what my angels and guides have to say to me about this life and what I'm learning, like by all means, click on that link and see what you think of his offers or what's coming up. So I just want to close with this. Radical acceptance does not mean that you stop dreaming, you stop having passion and desires and purpose. and you stop changing. Not at all. That's not at all what it means. What it means is you start from a place of love inside of yourself instead of a place of lack. You start from a place of compassion instead of a place of judgment or fear. And just remembering that your soul already knows what it's doing. We just have to learn how to remember it. We have to learn how to let it unfold and show us what it's meant to show us. So we're not meant to be perfect beings, but we are meant to keep on this journey of figuring out what it is we're here to learn about ourselves and others. So, if you want to go deeper, I highly recommend you go back and listen to episode 32 of the Energetics podcast with Rob Schwartz. We talk about pre birth planning, soul lessons, how to understand your plan, and how to bring peace into your life. You can also look at Rob's work at yoursoulsplan.com or follow him on Instagram, social, etc., any of those places. And again, like I said, I'll link the Between Lives Soul Regression link. Maybe, or maybe I'll just link his website. That might be better. And then you can click to and navigate to it so that you make sure you have the most current link for when he's offering it. If you're listening to this live as it's been released, I know he has one coming up in December. If you're listening to this at a later time, then, obviously you'll have to play around and see when he's offering his next one. So I just want to say thank you for joining me in this conversation. If the idea of incarnation and soul blueprints and soul plans seems a little far fetched for you, just open yourself up to see, what can I learn from the experience? Like, why am I even listening to this episode? I have some curiosity there. So, take a deep breath, trust that your path is emerging exactly as it's supposed to. Trust your journey, trust that you are right where you're supposed to be, and just remember, your soul is always guiding you home. So until next time, my friends, I hope you have an amazing day. You stay connected to your soul. You remember that you are a soul having a human experience, and connect back to that part of you that feels like home. I love you and I'm rooting for you. Until next time.